Getting right into draft here of game one here in this series. Big changes, obviously. Nefiri, we're expecting to see a Gwen here on red side, but obviously things like the Jax have been available.
Yeah, so those are the big proud champions. Ultra Prime on that blue side. They see the Nefiri taking away the Sejuani,
Okay.
so it's a ton of the top jungle picks. You just lock in the Vi here for Junhao, so that's pretty safe. I'm curious what the mid lane pairing is going to be. I know there's still a lot of options, but the Aurora is definitely the most common Vi pairing with mid jungle. We'll have to see where Ultra Prime goes on that side. As WE had a lot of really good, they have a lot of good AD carry options left up here. Taeyoon's Ezreal does not get banned this time. Curious to see if they'll prioritize that.
Yeah, WE have put a large focus, mostly, especially in Split 2, when we look at Taeyoon's champion pool. It's 5 games of Ezreal, 2 Varus, and a Corki. So, insane. 8 games, 5 of them on a single champion here, as WE
like
picking up
for real.
Rise here for Karis. I wonder if on the back end, if we're going to still see a Gwen as the answer. Particularly, we have seen this increase in level of performance from a player like Jung. He's had a little bit more gold intake. He's really ramped up his damage share, and I think that reflects mostly in his champion pool, moving away from Cassante and Jax, and really kind of more moving into our Mbesses and Gwen and Rumbles, like we see here. So Ultra Prime playing a little bit of a play fast composition. You have this Rumble with this Vi ultimate to kind of set up for a whole lot of damage, and then you have this Talia Vi as a pair, which are going to be very dangerous in finding picks.
There's just, I love the aggressiveness you're talking about with the jungle pick behind the territory you could set up with this, you called it out, Rumble and Talia ultimate. But the Gwen was not going to make it through the first phase, as it rarely has when left up. Cube is going to gobble that one up. So we'll see the Gwen versus Rumble matchup, which I do think is a very intriguing one, as the LPL still tries to discover what can kind of punish a blind or into a counter pick route, or a Gwen in general.
Yeah, Gwen usually opting to run Exhaust a lot in these matchups, so Rumble typically very good into melees. We'll see how that ends up shaking on out. Second half of the bans, though, we noted there were no AD carries picked up quite early, and I think this really might hurt WE, as they've had, again, such a large focus on making sure that Taeyoon has the tools to be able to stay safe, as he is the biggest win condition for this team every single game.
So Ezreal was the most obvious ban. Curious
Varus
if Varus
next,
is
probably.
Yeah, I feel that's we're on the same page, right? So Varus, Ezreal. It wouldn't be a good game for him to go Ziggs, obviously, now with 2 AP solo lanes. So this would force Taeyoon to already dip into his limited champion pool, like we've talked about, as one of the highest damage members of the LPL currently. We'll have to see. I feel like this is just an obvious Varus ban. No, they're going to leave the Varus up. So is this just an immediate, okay,
wow.
So not
all
the
right.
Varus.
They want to make sure that he gets comfort, recognizing what he wants to play. It can still play into Varus. I think Varus into this composition can be fine. Also still opts for stuff like an Edge of Night or even a Zhonya's if he starts to tech into some of that AP that we were talking about. But here for Ultra Prime, a couple of answers. We could still see the Ashe Braum like we saw from LGD in the last game. Or if, we're kind of looking at what they would want, they kind of a similar overlap, especially in terms of AD carries. The ability to just sit in mid and give your AD carry kind of free lane pressure, as well as being able to clear mid when we kind of park them in that lane, is very important. So here for Wako, he's been someone who's been a little bit adventurous, for better or for worse, like we were kind of noting with some of his champion picks, and especially how he plays in some of these fights.
He does have to be a pretty happy camper to end up with a B5 Varus. That's a rarity in the LPL. And the Corki for Taeyoon. So I know all because we were watching the previous series. A couple of times you thought a Corki angle would be a good move here for Taeyoon. But what do you think about this Corki angle now that we're actually getting it in the series up against Ultra Prime?
I think WE have such a robust composition. You think of how strong these champions are going to be later into the game, especially on 2 and 3 items. And then you look at how much HP pools they're going to have. I feel like Ultra Prime are going to, again, like we said early on, I feel like the Varus and the Rel still accentuate these kind of makings of a pick composition. You want to be able to play at range, let them get poked out by stuff like the Rumble Ultimate and the Varus, and then you just have Vi and Talia be able to kind of knock over the rest of those pins. So as long as this game goes late, we are going to be favoring Team WE, but Ultra Prime have shown that they really want to play in those first 15 minutes and try to take an advantage. So my eyes in particular are looking at some early grubs. When you have something like a Gwen, I feel like you cannot be giving over these objectives.
And what even further emphasizes what you're saying, Alk, is I think not to discredit WE's 2 over LGD, but the LGD were making mistake after mistake in that critical 15-minute window right off the bat in the game. So if Ultra Prime come in playing with that same style they've adopted since going to Split 2, but do it with in a pretty clean sense, I think they are my favorite to come out of this game like you're talking about, and are definitely going to be threatening for WE compared to what we might have just seen from LGD. But who knows what happens once you go on to the Rift. We've seen crazier already today, I would argue, already since the promotion tournament started. And we'll see if Ultra Prime are up to the task to clear themselves a bit better than the competition, as, like you mentioned, not even necessarily expected to potentially even be down here when people went into that FPX game. But all that's in the past. We are in the present. We are deciding the final 2 spots. Group Nirvana, Group Ascend. These 2 teams are going opposite ways after the end of this best of 3. Who can start out with the best foot forward?
All right, 40 seconds, you know. Still making a 5-point here, just getting a little bit of early vision. I think that Monki on this Shinsao has so much added utility. I think having the ultimate to suddenly make a lot of Ultra Prime's damage nullified does actually end up kind of adding more to that theme that I was talking about earlier of how deceptively tanky I think some of Team WE can be. So early vision onto Monki is obviously going to be very important. Oh, he's just going straight on in. Okay, I mean, it's good for the mid lane matchup, but Monki is going to take a little bit of a chunk there, and still that ward is going to be available for Ultra Prime.
We got to remember Monki's coming off a Nefiri game and a Viego game, and those 2 champions are all about 1v1s and going all in. So maybe, you know, still feels the vibe of that even on the Xin Zhao. We'll have to see.
A little bit of respect check on the Saber. He was like, if no one else is here, I'm walking at you, dog. Like, you can't stop me.
We got a lot of people walking at each other right now as Vampire's already looking to get early trades into Xiaoxia. We do see it's going to be the lethal tempo Varus here from Wako. What's the 4-1-1 on that, Hulk?
I feel like this is going to be better, but how many times is Wako actually going to be allowed to auto-attack in this fight, right?
Question, right?
You imagine there might be a Nautilus constantly disrupting you. And we'll have to see how this early lane phase goes, because Corki and Nautilus level 2 spike is a lot more powerful than Ultra Prime. You already see they're forcing the issue.
This guy's predicting the future right now. Xiaoxia gets the Ignite thrown over his head and will definitely have to take a quick reset. So Vampire and Taeyoon. Raafaa, after they got off of the first W series, talked about, hey, does Taeyoon finally have the support of Vampire to be a real threat in this promotion tournament? Through the early 2.5 minutes we've seen of this series, I definitely would back that sentiment for now.
Man, well, I thought we weren't going to do the glazing.
Hey.
It's not even 3 minutes into the game. We're already giving this guy props.
I'm giving him secondary props. I'm giving the boy Raafaa primary props. It just, unfortunately, that does also give Vampire props. It's like props
all right
distributed, you know? Flashes distributed in the mid lane. All right, Saber and Karis are going to be flashless. Let's see if our junglers can tune into that going forward.
Yeah, both junglers are on the top side, but obviously Monki taking a bit of a disruptive
Oh
path.
my lord.
Oh my god. Why didn't we just wait? Karis was going to walk up anyway with the stun, or with the root, sorry, so why not just go for it? And now Monki has completely ruined his game at this point, because he did 4 camps, went mid, was looking for an invade on top side, but Junhao has already finished 5 of his camps, so he has a pretty large experience lead for right now. And now Monki's not even going to go for red buff, so he's going to be down, I think, in terms of combat prowess. We are TPing on this.
for blue buff.
Okay.
We are TPing, and
he still gets it.
And he's out.
Get me out.
Oh my god, that is the most valuable blue buff I've ever seen in the first 4 minutes of a League of Legends game.
I mean, Junhao's now just going to be able to recall. He'll have a couple of answers into bottom lane wave. We'll see what this actually ends up looking like. I don't think it matches. Oh, the fact they actually canceled Saber's recall is a bit backbreaking right there. He's going to do it again. So another 8 seconds. Also still has to teleport back into mid. But I do want to see Junhao potentially look for a dive onto this bottom lane wave. Maybe apply some pressure. Let's try to leverage the fact that we still have the Ignite over them. Maybe get some summoner spells here from the side of Team WE's bottom lane.
Ooh, he does Faultbreaker over the wall to avoid that. Raptor Pit Ward, also an option. Karis is flashless without Realm Warp, right? Still level 4. The wave was crashing against him, though. I forgot about that hugely stacked wave. So bottom lane could be the play. Junhao looking just to see where the camp timers are for Monki. He's not going to find anything to steal away, except this Grump that just spawned up. But
Yeah.
not going to have to worry about Grubs coming online just yet. So Junhao could have had the space to create for that, but Vampire is going to deny.
I think that's actually really smart. Good job from Team WE calling over their bottom lane. It does mean that Junhao, obviously,
Vampire,
he
right?
still
That's
has
what
a
I'm
bit of it. Yeah, I think he still has a, oh, this could be a very easy solo kill. Junk does have to be careful. Again, keep having the exhaust. It's always going to be playable. But for Junhao now, he has a lot of options. There's still, like you were saying, no flash here for Karis. There are those grubs spawning in 50 seconds, so I think we're already starting to see that Ultra Prime are going to make that move and eventually start to move Xiaoxia up into the top lane.
I could just tell Cuba's waiting for Needlework to come around to try and force this, and it is that one minion. Yeah, that minion will give Needlework. Wonder if he just goes for the all-in on this next wave coming up, or at least try and deny Zhang off of it. Nothing really manifesting for now, as we do see out of base, Xiaoxia is going to move himself over towards the mid lane. Both supports looking to fight for this Grub, so our first Bane skirmish might come 4v4 style at the Grub pit here.
And there will be a small period of time as Wako is catching this bottom lane wave that Taeyoon will have an advantage. See, already almost halfway out through the base, Wako just now channeling the recall. So I wonder if there will be enough time here for Team WE, but it looks like instead they're mostly just jockeying for position to control mid-wave, reinforce the fact that Saber does not have this flash, as is Talia, can be very dangerous to walk up. You already see they're going to try and walk together.
Yeah, he's going to face check it. Crashdown does comes across. Vampire's losing HP rapidly. Both supports, who's going to fall first? It's going to be a trade, but on the top side, it looks like Cube gets the win with the help of Monki. So across the map, an early win for WE in the gold, right where they want it, on their Corki and on their Gwen.
And that was a couple of summoner spells traded, but now it's going to be the 3 grubs on top of that. Team WE come out really far ahead in this trade. As again, we saw Taeyoon end up making that move into mid, ends up being there before the Varus, and we get to see what exactly happened. Topside, not much for Jung to do. Again, that exhaust is so dangerous. And we get to take a look again at this play. Look at where the Varus is. I mean, look at how much damage and I think the utility that Vampire was able to get down. Karis is obviously doing his best on this Rise. And I love this Realm Warp, really creative use to be able to secure their AD carry's position in this fight. What I want to see now from Ultra Prime is you're going to have level 6 on Vi. Can we set up on a bot lane dive? He just knew he's under so much pressure here in this mid lane. Saber.
Oh, here's the second flash. Monki nearly finds the kill, but that's a huge seismic shove, and Saber's going to limp away. Definitely walking the tightrope that is known as a gray screen.
They're going to try and go for something on mid, waiting for Xiaoxia and the rest of Wako. Wako does have ultimate. They do have 2 of them available, getting them some movement speed. Jung cannot move.
Okay, he's going to flash for it onto Monki. Does not have the Crescent Guard. Remember, just used it on the play to Saber. Another flash comes across, so they really want Wako to get this kill. And they committed a whole lot of summoners for it, but they might get a double up here, depending on how sneaky Karis is going to be able to get.
He can just TP out of here.
Yep, he's out. Vaultbreaker can't get close enough. But still a win there for Ultra Prime, getting a big kill back to Wako. So both of our marksmans now get an early gold boost.
Yeah, but look at how many summoner spells were traded out of that. Obviously, Monki using his first to grab that kill onto Saber. Saber losing his preemptively. Same with now Wako and Junhao to get those ultimates. And now it's going to be plates here for Team WE. This game feels really wonky. I'm with you. I'm kind of getting this like urge from both teams where they're like, we need to go for every kill. We need to just keep this game accelerated because they don't want like a second of like hesitancy from either team, because that suddenly might just be the mind killer.
You know, I'm with you when I'm watching 2 mid laners burn their flash twice in a row off cooldown.
It makes sense for Karis at least.
It does.
In this matchup, like when you're playing Rise, I think a lot of people are like so focused on just like EQ, trying to get the Doinby combo as fast as possible. But Flash EW is just like really unplayable. Like there's like very rare counterplay up against it because it's quite literally a point and click route. That's as good a setup as you're going to get from a mid lane, especially from Rise very early on. So I like the attempt, just I don't know how many times we're actually going to be able to punish a Rise without Flash with the composition we're getting from Ultra Prime, who honestly don't even have that much of a gold lead. It's only 700 in favor of Team WE, but you know, we're looking at them already having some of those grubs, which were again another objective we were looking for Ultra Prime to take.
He's going to drift back towards that Grub pit in about a minute 20. We'll see if any of these players can get that first big item break point. Not going to likely be either of our marksmen. Maybe looking towards a Sundered Sky finish for Junhao by that point. But definitely going to be the hot topic on the Rift is going to be Ultra Prime needing to deny those Grubs because, I mean, how much of a death sentence Hulk is it for a Rise and a Gwen to have 6 Grubs behind them?
It's going to be so disgusting. I mean, who on the side of Ultra Prime is really going to be able to deal with them individually, even without having the Grubs? And then you obviously add that factor in it, it makes it very unplayable. So already Vampire is here, at least around mid lane. Xiaoxia helping his bottom lane partner to be able to clear this wave. But you see that Team WE taking a really strong stance around the mid lane so that they can choose which option, which objective that they want to play for. Seems like they want to try to help Taeyoon connect into this play and then move into top side. So while they're doing all this, Ultra Prime, even if they want to walk into that river, they're going to walk over vision. They're going to have to clear out this if they want to try to contest properly. So I like what Team WE are playing for right now. Maybe even looking for a dive and willing to give this up.
Not a bad trade, right? Because you already got the 3 in your kit and caboodle, and why not just use the vision wards that you have? Monki going into Xiaoxia, maybe not recognizing that Saber was also on the roam over there. So that is the Crescent Guard down for Monki, and I know Alki pointed out how valuable that is into Ultra Prime's comp. Will not be available. Neither will the Grubs at all, as Junhao, quick on the trigger, jumps right onto that camp, and shouldn't really be contested at all. So despite how much momentum 6 Grubs, or even just 1 might could have been for a Gwen Rise solo lane comp, we're just going to split them.
Yeah, I think this is perfectly fine. They wanted to make sure they get gold, which has kind of been the game plan for Team WE the entire split long. Even when you look back in split 1, we saw the makings of a Taeyoon and 4 wards, and that has not been any different here in split 2, even going into the last chance qualifier. We talked about it. He has the highest damage share out of any individual player on any team when Jong is here with the 1v1.
He doesn't even need to use the exhaust. Maybe he does now, and probably should have burned it earlier. Zhang's going to be able to get out with Flash burned, but that is Cube still building up a gold lead that's minuscule now, but will only scale in power.
Yep, and it's funny to see, right, because Zhang has been kind of the solo lane guy. He was, we colloquially called him 1v1 Zhang, and it seems like he's not getting the better of that right now. Maybe later. We haven't still seen Ultra Prime really set up as a 5-man unit, which is really where I think this composition does lie. Saber can move on over, and we'll see if the Weaver's Wall ends up being more impactful, but around this dragon, I have to imagine that WE feel really strong. Look at the item spikes that they have right now. Rod of Ages already completed here for Karis. You have a Trinity Force here for Taeyoon. Even the Sundered Sky coming in for Monki. So many items that make it very difficult for your opponents to play.
But Xiaoxia wants to go for the engage. There's the Weaver's Wall. They're using the map very, very well. Finally, it's Ultra Prime teaming up with their Vitalia combination, and they're going to pick off a Monki who was played for Dragon all on his lone side.
Wow. Slight improper timing there on the Crescent Guard for Monki. We'll probably catch it in the replay, but really good way of canceling the crowd control coming out from Junhao with the ultimate. So grabbing themselves 2 Dragon, maybe that's one way that we can kind of see them continue to pivot in this game, maybe go towards some of those souls. It is going to be an Infernal soul, so quite powerful for some of the damage that we're going to be seeing out from this team. And right now, Team WE, despite losing this, are really heavily prioritizing just getting gold on their carries and getting them onto some of these champions so that they can hit their item breakpoints rather quickly.
In case anybody is watching on a mobile device, it's hard to zoom in on the map state, and they're wondering why WE have a big gold advantage right now. I want to make sure it's known that up until this point, Ultra Prime have not taken a single plate off of any 3 of these turrets. That's what's the difference, and it's going to stay that way as plates drop off at the 14-minute mark. So that is, along with that first turn in the bottom lane, what is really bringing a lot of the gold over top for WE.
There are also some minor CS advantages as well in the top side here, Cube, Monki, and Karis having over their opponents. So what I want to see now coming into this, around that 14-minute mark now, we do have the Herald spawning in 2 minutes. What I'm looking at from WE is how they're going to be able to play the map. I think one of the problem points that I've had with Karis, especially here in Split 2, has been, I think some of his map play does look weak, but I think part of that can be attributed to being unfortunately part of one of the losingest rosters in the league right now. This is why we had such low expectations for this Team WE roster, was them coming in at 4th, barely winning any games the entirety of 2025.
Now they're in pretty good position to take a lead, playing for a Group Ascent spot, and just playing at a different level, it seems, ever since the promotion tournament came around. I know a lot of people have given valid credit to Taeyoon, but just focusing in on today, and I liked how it was brought up from Raafaa and Cubby. Yes, Monki did get to play Viego Nefiri, one of the very busted champions right now, but I don't really want to dock him too much for playing overpowered champions because you still need to pilot them well. And
yes,
Monki,
that's true.
You know, Monki looked like the player WE wanted to bring in that series against LGD. Maybe one mistake at that Dragon Pit is marring him a bit here up against Ultra Prime, but these guys clicking together, like we've talked about since we got on here, finding cohesion, finding confidence, is what's going to get you a Group Ascent spot between these two squads. And right now, so far, for the most part, it's been WE on the Rift.
It's so funny how these two organizations took kind of similar paths but diverging routes as to how they got here to this moment. When you look at their roster construction for Ultra Prime, it was bringing over 2 players from the LCP, or previously the PCS, in Wako and Jung. But then for WE, they brought over 2 players from the LCK, or the LCK Challengers League, with Karis and Taeyoon. So kind of interesting to see, you know, what the better of the two in terms of which kind of roster dynamics exactly were, you know, more successful here. As now we're seeing Ultra Prime losing access to the Herald, but you still have this Talia wall and potentially caging them in with a Rumble.
Vampire,
oh my god.
He's going to hit the dredge line, and the rest of the team is going to try to burn through Xiao. He does get a crash down before falling. There's the cease and desist as they single out Monki off to the side, but the Crescent Guard buying so much space for this Xin Zhao. Rift Herald in the middle of it all, down to about 3K. Junhao's going to take the Blast Cone over. And I smell a 50-50 for good old Shelly here. They're going to try not to let Junhao in. He's going to vault over, steal the Herald away, and Monki does not have the Crescent Guard to protect him this time round. Zhang is running wild with the Flame Spinner, going to hit the fade away W as well. The solo lanes saving Ultra Prime, and it's Saber to hit the seismic shove to send it home. That's the UP we want to see tonight.
Why are we giving over space? Good job coming in from Ultra Prime. Really strong fight, and I love how they were able to set up with the solo lanes here. My eyes immediately go on to how Saber, not only with this Talia wall, kind of cuts off one of the ways they could play, but then this equalizer on top of the Varus ultimate, getting so many members and cutting open this fight. Taeyoon's doing no damage this entire time, and slowly they get to play out the rest of this fight. I think what's going to really hurt WE coming out of this play is not only did they lose the objective, but how many summoner spells they ended up losing afterwards. Taeyoon, no flash, no cleanse, and even losing this Herald. I mean, it's fine, right? You're making the flip, but all of these flashes now gone is just going to hurt, and I love what we got from Jung.
I think we're seeing the shortcoming that you kind of highlighted a bit all in draft with this Corki pick, right? Such a strong marksman right now in the meta in so many facets, but that low range really going to hurt Taeyoon, and all the damage percentage truthers might see a stark drop-off, but maybe W will look to fight as close as possible. That seismic shove again from Saber just eliminates Vampire. Crash now going to come across, but it's the cease and desist to lock Monki in place, and the Crescent Guard will not save him when the rest of Ultra Prime are on top of him. The equalizer piercing arrow to bring it home. Ultra Prime have awoken out of that slumber of an early game and exploded onto the Rift.
This is an amazing start to this game. A bit slow, right at 18 minutes. We only have just gotten a lot of action recently, but now they're going to be able to grab the Rift Herald. Now they got the third to Dragon as well, putting them on Soul Point. Ultra Prime came to play. They knew when their items were going to be able to spike, when their champions are going to be at a pretty good apex here. 10-4 is now the lead, but they only have 1,000 gold in their pocket. Some of this, we get to see exactly what happened here. Oh, it was only him by himself here. Karis wanted to really overload to one side, but I don't know what to say here, Slayer. I'm now looking at a Varus with 2 items, has even upgraded boots, is going to have that on-hit Varus with 3 items coming up soon afterwards. That's a very tough pill to swallow if you're Team WE.
and I think it's only going to get worse. And we're going to see in this replay. I want to highlight.
I'm not glazing Vampire for this, dog.
No. I'm glazing Xiaoxia because I think Saber and Xiaoxia are creating enough space for Wako to just min-max on this lethality VODS. Look how many autos and piercing arrows this guy gets off untouched. Wako never gets hit in this fight at any point. The turret is the only one doing damage to him.
I love what we've gotten from Ultra Prime in terms of an evolution. In the first split of LPL this year, Ultra Prime looked like a team that couldn't even really operate at a laning phase. We saw specifically Saber really have a hard time playing here in the LPL up against players like Xiaohu. But so far in Split 2, I feel like they've started to massage some of that, make it a little bit better here. And obviously Team WE are not going up against, or not the likes of a Weibo or the like, but so far Ultra Prime have definitely started to bring it together. And now they're in a position where in 3.5 minutes, every 5 minutes anyway for Team WE, they're going to have to answer for a soul.
Right now, they're going to have to really contend with how Voracious Otacon is going to stretch the map when talking about those dragons. Definitely doesn't help that neither top lane tier 1 turret is down, so the wave state battle is going to be even more exacerbated. But Ultra Prime are looking for one deadly flank here. Vampire does not know what's awaiting him over that wall. It's going to be Xiaoxia that uses his Hex Flash to get over, but Ultra Prime are a little bit wary of committing towards such a big flank until Junhao steps up.
Okay, how fast can they make this play? Cube still has to teleport for this.
Weaver's Wall, not going to cut really anybody off for WE. The equalizer needs to be huge, but Taeyoon does get out of it. Vampire goes in with the dredge line, but it's on to Junhao. And once again, Vampire a little far up on his lonesome. Dies before Cube can even teleport in for the flank, but doesn't even really want the flank because he's getting a cease and desist over the top of his face. The exhaust doing a ton for Zhang. Did not get the damage out he needs, and Cube is able to trade out Junhao for now. Monki's Crescent Guard buys him enough space, and now we have a very, very big 4v4, but Ultra Prime not holding on to the jungler, but maybe they don't need it with Saber finding the seismic shove of destiny. Now Karis has to flash out. Saber still firing stone after stone, but he just won his squad a narrow fight win right in front of Otacon.
I think that Ultra Prime were very lucky to come out of that with at least a small advantage there, because Team WE, they wanted to overforce, overload onto one side of the map, grab themselves a turret, and then look for a recall, potentially go for a contest on the Otacon maybe a little bit afterwards, maybe get some items. But here in the replay, from this point on, I feel like this should have been WE really in a good spot. The equalizer barely getting damage here onto Taeyoon, but that Corki is dealing no damage during all of this. They're waiting for Cube to get into the back line.
Yeah, just the desync to the starts of these fights here. I mean, what does this look like if Vampire's Dredge Line goes in as Cube teleports in, right? And it's those small cohesion mistakes that I've really marred a lot, really every team in the promotion tournament for why they're here, and it's coming up at the worst time for WE.
I love that we're getting these picks from Sabers, although now we're here at 22.5 minutes. We're getting TPs. We're fighting again around the Otacon.
How many teams have thrown their leads in the LPL around Voracious Otacon? That's a huge wall, though, coming across from Saber. Wako and Vampire are on the wrong side of it.
They've leashed it now.
Yeah, free leash. The Monki, are you really just going to give this Otacon here? He's going to look for the fight into Xiaoxia, but Xiaoxia's going to flash, get a huge crash down. He's locking up both of the carries on his own, so the Ultra Prime can step up as a squad. Cease and desist down onto Karis. Junhao, don't know if you win this 1v1, buddy. Vampire's going to swing over next. Saber's going to get a ton of damage done by the Otacon.
Otacon is winning.
Otacon is MVP right now in this fight. Round more from Karis, used to get back towards his team. Otacon is still yet to reset at nearly under 3k damage, but it's Ultra Prime. They can't stay for it anymore. They've taken too much damage. The reset bails them out from releashing Otacon over to WE. This is getting wacky, Hulk. I don't know who's going to end up with this one. 50-50s.
Oh,
Who
Wako,
knows?
Wako!
From Karis into Wako. The barrier saves
it!
And the Voracious Otacon is secured by Junhao. Boy, was that anything but clean. Still a win for Ultra Prime after it all.
At that point, look, we're playing in the last chance qualifier. These are the third place teams from all of our groups, and they are just getting right down into the mud. They do not care as to how cleanly it needs to be. They just want to be able to say that they made it into Group Ascend over their opponents. As we look at this replay, so much to go over. I like the idea of a flank here from Vampire. This crash down, like you had noted during the call between the top and support of Ultra Prime, opens up this play. Wonjong living is great. He invests his own flash, but he doesn't have teleport. So this entire next portion of play is going to have to be between these 8 players. As Karis is again the only one. He escapes, but why are we still contesting? Why are we still here? We've now spent like 5+ minutes in the Otacon top brush for so long.
I see a Weaver's Wall.
Oh, picture.
Has caught Vampire out of his dredge line. Xiaoxia silencing any doubt that he may be the more powerful support in this matchup. And yeah, that is Infernal Soul. Man, what Voracious Octagon can do for a team is wondrous on the Rift.
And you look at the gold leads individually, it's not that much except for our 80 carries. This was not the matchup that we thought coming into this day and necessarily we were going to be able to see. A lot of gold has gone over to the side of Wako. Observer showing us the potential for a flank teleport. Karis already getting set up, trying to stay in Fog of War. But Taeyoon has been big man on campus for Team WE. And Wako, fair share of criticism, has had some games where he just goes a little too far, tries to sacrifice and get a little too much into the face of the opponents and jeopardizes some of the games of Ultra Prime. Not here in this game.
And again, when we talked about how Ultra Prime had started leveling up, you mentioned the old moniker for Zhang of the 1v1 Zhang, right? The guy that can win the solo lane. Saber picking Zed in a game to try and run away and win. It is pretty cool to see Ultra Prime now, you know, going with a Talia for Saber, a supportive setup Vi, that they're once again leaning on Wako to really bring a ton of the damage. And awesome for Ultra Prime fans to see him not disappoint in the slightest in this game, like you mentioned.
Yeah, think about the experience differential between some of these players. Not just in the game, but out externally. Saber, this is his first year playing in Tier 1. He was on Ultra Prime's youth team in the Ultra Prime Academy. Zhang playing over in LCP. He only had 1 year of playing in the PCS.
All right, let's see how powerful this Gwen is. Oh, I was getting a little scared there. Junhao should be able to pick up the kill through the healing, and Karis has teleported in. Thinks he has a 1v1. Doesn't have a 1v2. He has himself a 1 versus 3. The whole squad pulled up, but Karis is putting on some fancy footwork here to buy some time. Monki is here. Sarah's still getting a ton of value. Equalizer down. Flash forward from Monki. Wants one. Gets Zhang. Does find that kill. Trades himself out and valiantly saves Karis, who does burn both summoners in the exchange.
Yeah, so did Monki, though. Monki tried to flash W and I guess try to find a play. I feel like WE are starting to reach, and that gold is starting to climb now. It's been pretty even for most of the game, but now with an Infernal Soul, I feel like WE are kind of just throwing themselves at the wall and trying to see anything will stick here. The point I was trying to make beforehand is that solo lanes here for Ultra Prime, very raw, and Wako is a player who, coming from the PCS, has so much experience playing in multiple different worlds coming through, and obviously also a role swap from some other lanes in previous years, so trying to hopefully build around this player here as they start on the Baron.
Yeah, this Baron, start up, this thing's gone.
It
is in the hands of Ultra Prime. Vampire in the middle of everybody on Ultra Prime once more, but Wako's damage is ludicrous. Cube is going to find the shutdown, but it's a fleeting hope. I don't care how overtuned this Gwen is. 1 versus 4 means squat. Shutdown from Wako, but another huge win for Ultra Prime. This game feels done and dusted.
Yeah, they have 5. They don't have all the grubs, but I mean, you have so much damage, and now with this Baron buff, Monkey's the last one. If anything, he's probably just saving his team right now from losing the game outright, because those two are not hitting on mid turrets.
Oh my god. Saber's damage with the Infernal Soul is big. But yeah, I think that's a good point to make. Maybe could have threatened the end there. Does help the Nexus turrets to respawn. This really slowed teams down from pushing 2 ham into the base. So they'll play it respectfully. Ultra Prime grab themselves the inhibitor, break open the base, and now can reset as we get another look at this Baron fight that was kind of over when it started.
Yeah, so one, Taeyoon comes into this fight with very little mana, especially as a Corki, one of the resources you really have to try to balance around. Monki is nowhere near this play. Why are we going for this? At least let's link up with our Rise so that we can realm warp everybody in afterwards. Maybe chase them out of the pit. WE are just kind of running in and slowly, if not surely, making sure this game ends within the next 3 minutes.
I don't know when Mark and I don't know what Raafaa and Cubby were talking about with this Vampire guy. That's the 4th fight in a row.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, I'm going to do it. That was the 4th fight in a row where Vampire is just in the middle of Ultra Prime, like 5 seconds before his team is actually ready to fight.
Yeah, maybe Vampire just has a crush on Mark. Maybe Mark has been, sending love letters over, kind of trying to court Vampire. He's like, look, Cubby's not doing it for me at home. He hasn't been playing duo queue with me. Why not? I get it.
You know what I have to say to that? Okay, I'll hold the point here, as we might have Monki just.
I think you could say
great
WE are
seismic
losing
shove.
this game.
Yeah, Saber gets another great seismic shove, sets up the cease and desist. Junhao's going flying in for Karis, who does pop the stasis, but it is a short-lived trip out of it, as another kill is picked up, and this should be Ultra Prime putting the finishing touches on not the cleanest game, but once we came out to 5v5s, once we got out of lanes, Ultra Prime just looked like the more cohesive, polished, and better team to kick off this best of 3 that will decide which one of our 2 squads we're watching now goes to Group Ascend and goes to Group Nirvana. And if this keeps up the way Ultra Prime has started, we will be out of here with that answer as quick as possible.
Yep. Here we go. 26-7, 30-minute game coming in from Ultra Prime. I love this. I don't know if maybe it's because Kelsey has just been out of the office for a little bit. She's been hanging out with some of the Boise kids to kind of help out the students. But ever since she has not been here, Ultra Prime started to perform. Yeah, I think we need to keep her away from the boys. She was a big Ultra Prime fan for the past couple of years, so I get it. But maybe the less involved she is, the better. It's a painful relationship there.
Yeah, and I think this is no better time than now, because I know we didn't get to do it with the fact there was no 1v1. We jumped right into draft.
Yeah.
Just after this game 1 win for Ultra Prime, Mickey, our producer, if you could throw up the second half of the format graphic, because I really want to just nail home what the winner and loser of this series looks like, right?
Yep.
Because if you, Ultra Prime, right now, if you are up 1-0, you go to Group Ascend, and that allows you to play for Worlds contention just by being in that group.
Again, big caveats there. Double round robin. Top 4 teams immediately qualify for playoffs. And bottom 6 do have to play a play-in stage. So there would still need to be a lot of work done here for Ultra Prime to start contesting for some of those spots. But yes, there is a possibility that this team is able to make a pretty deep run. And like you were saying, the other half of that is going into Group Nirvana, where you have the potential to get knocked out and eliminated for the rest of the year sometime in June. So very cutthroat format, especially. And here for Ultra Prime, we kind of talked about it a little bit from draft. There wasn't much in that game, but we come out of this now. Gwen already on the table here in Fearless, taken away. Corki now and Varus away from Taeyoon. We saw the Ezreal ban already, so some of the big carries, some of the champions that I think WE has been really reliant on to make sure that Taeyoon is such a big factor in their victories is now gone.
Is it important to mention, though, on the flip side of that, while it's a little bit more minimal, right? You do get Zhang off the Rumble that he's been very powerful on by this point. You take away the Vi for Junhao. Just like some small fleeting wins here for WE. Like, Fearless always starts to kneecap both teams, right? But I'm glad you pointed out, Aug, this is definitely going to be a tougher thing for WE to solve. At the very least, we expect them to take advantage of the very popular blue side. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves for now. Let's make sure to appreciate the damage graph. And for the first time in a while, I don't see Taeyoon having nearly 40% of his damage share.
No. That's, I mean, it's sad. I feel like he wasn't really connected with a lot of the fights. We didn't really get to pull in our hopefully strong enough AD carry. Didn't even really get to finish Muramana until the very end of that game. And I know we were kind of talking about it. Some of that early game was a bit hectic. We had a lot of stuff go on in the first 10 minutes. But I really want to credit the improvement that we have gotten from the solo lanes here of Ultra Prime. Zhang, in particular, has done a lot better job of being more contributing to team fights. And Saber, I think, finding his kind of angles here. Sometimes, obviously, we've seen him on these melee carries, like the Trendamir that we got from him all the way back in Split 1, or the Zed that we've been getting more recently. But I think the new look here for Ultra Prime has really started to help and bring this team together and kind of hopefully round them out to be a much stronger team than we expected.
You got to be as strong as you can, even looking forward if you want to go toe-to-toe with the best of the best in the LPL, if they accomplish their goal and reach Group Ascend. But I think this is the greatest fight. I want to transition into some of these. It's actually, I forgot how many fights we had at Octagon. We had like 3, so it's the later fight. My point being here, all transitioning into MVP talk, I think Saber's a really good pick, but
For
Xiaoxia
sure.
on this rel was really a sleeper for some of these engages, and that big Octagon fight that was the whole flip. How different does it look if he doesn't section off 2 of the carries with a full crash down? I think he deserves at least a look from this one.
Yeah, I
There it
could
is.
definitely agree with that. This is definitely a lot better. I just think that Saber, for someone who got so hard focused in lane versus the Rise, which fair
That's a good
enough, you're
point.
playing Talia, you typically don't have a lot of agency very early on, especially without your summoner spells. But Saber actually, I think, had a really good rebuttal coming into this game, and we got to see that Talia really work in spades against some of the immobile members here of Team WE.
Once again, I'm Gall on the Saber player of the game
Yeah.
track, but I just want to throw some Xiaoxia's way, especially when we've talked about how, how Raafaa and Cubby left the bot lane conversation with WE like, oh, is Vampire Taeyoon finally clicking? We got to give some credit to the fact that Wako, like you talked about, has been a veteran of the game for a while at Tier 1, has really found a way to just gel pretty fantastically with Xiaoxia, who, you remember, had to come in for Split 2. There was, we didn't know. I remember the first time we saw Ultra Prime, we didn't know if,
Yeah.
he'd be splitting time with RosieLove. Ever since they got on the Rift together, they've really clicked. And it's good to see him get rewarded with that starting spot and continuing to show that edge in this game with Wako.
Ultra Prime social media admin, if you are watching this, why'd you ghost me, man? I wanted to ask. This is about the Xiaoxia and RosieLove stuff because,
That's
like
true.
we were
You did
saying,
get ghosted.
the first day of groups when Ultra Prime was playing, we got the announcement like maybe an hour before the games, and
Yeah.
obviously this is a fan-made broadcast. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a ton of volunteers that are just giving their time with very little in terms of compensation. I'm scrambling to make a roster graphic for us to show on the broadcast. Okay. I was like, are we splitting time? Do I have to make 2 different graphics? Is RosieLove gone? Obviously, with time, we now know that RosieLove has, departed the team, and now with Xiaoxia, it seems like this has been a much better project so far. It sucks that it comes at the cost of another player, but obviously, at the end of the day, teams are built to try to at least gain some amount of success. We're going to see
All right.
Saber here take his first MVP count, which is really impressive for a player who is so new to playing professional here in Tier 1.
We have highlighted right since the start of Split 2, especially since we got into this promotion tournament, that there are a ton of young guns looking to make their mark. I think of like Jachi's RNG to start off Split 2, right? Now you have guys like Saber, as you mentioned, claiming his first MVP. So congratulations to Saber, maybe giving Ultra Prime enough of an edge to bring this one home. But as we talked about a little bit ago, WE will have blue side very likely in their hands, side selection in general, and they'll have to find a way to battle back here with their backs totally against the wall, staring down the gate to Group Nirvana. We're going to take ourselves a short break, and once we return, it will be Draft 2 between Ultra Prime and WE, with spots on Group Ascend and Group Nirvana all in